Welcome to Terrortown Talk with Coach Rocky Hidalgo. I'm your host, Dan Meyers. This week's show is brought to you by Peachtree Pest Control, Island Ace Hardware, and Sapelo Equipment Company. We really appreciate the support, guys. If you'd like your business featured on our show, check out Coach Rock's email link below. Without further ado, Coach, what's up?
Man, I'm impressed. No script or anything.
No script.
This is like live and direct, like Hollywood, man. It's big time. It's good stuff.
Did we win the bye week?
It depends on how you look at it. Yeah, it was good. We had 3 good days of practice, I think, and got a little rest and recreation in, and so I think all in all, it was a good week.
Yeah, I saw a couple big targets go out and play some paintball. You get invited to the line?
I was out of town for that. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law died the Saturday after Winder Barrow, and so I went out of town to visit my family. But it was those guys went out and had a good time. I'm sure it was a ample opportunity to shoot some guys with some paintballs. But I would have loved to have been there to see some of those jokers because they're not very swift. Some of them.
I saw one that was trying to hide behind a tree. He didn't realize he was bigger than the tree. It was tough. So we're feeling healthy going into this week's game. Got some rest in and
like anything else, got to avoid COVID. That's kind of it's like the lottery. It can draw any name out of the hat at any point in time. But other than that, for the most part, our team, I think, is relatively healthy. Some bumps and bruises, but nobody who's seriously injured. So we ought to have a pretty good, decent squad ready to go out and compete against Coffee on Friday.
Fantastic. Before we get into coffee, let's pause for a moment. Word from our sponsors.
Rocky Hidalgo, head football coach of the Glen Academy Red Terrors. As a coach, you have to wear a lot of different hats. Sometimes a coach, a mentor, a laundromat, sometimes a chauffeur. And that's how Urgent Med treats healthcare.
Urgent Med is the place to go when you're feeling under the weather, but we offer so much more. Sports injuries, back pains, and headaches, we're here to get you back in the game. Now, Urgent Med is accepting primary care appointments.
Glen Academy is proud to have Urgent Med 1 as a proud sponsor of Glen Academy football.
We now have 2 locations to serve you on St. Simon's Island by Winn-Dixie and Brunswick, exit 36. Go Terrors!
All right, welcome back, guys. So, Coach, we got Coffee County coming up this Friday. What can we expect to see out of them?
They're a really good football team. They're big and physical. They always are. I don't know what they feed them in Douglas, but
it's not organic chicken.
It's. I think everybody's drinking whole milk there. You need the moms in Glen County. We got to get off the organic milk and get our kids back on hormones to get some big kids growing over here. But they're really, usually you think of Coffee, you think a team that kind of runs the football a bunch, but man, they're pretty dynamic on offense. Quarterback throws the ball well. They've got a slot who's an exceptional player. I mean, he's as good a player as I've seen on film all year long, and he's tough to handle. He can beat you by himself, so we have to figure out how we're going to handle him, keep him in front of us. We have to tackle him when he gets the ball, but we can't let him win the game. And I think if you go back and you watch some of their films versus Houston County or Bainbridge, I mean, he won the game. He took the game over and won the game for him. So, he creates a lot of problems, matchup on the perimeter. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do out there with those guys. Then we're going to have to play great run defense because they still have a big offensive line. They do a great job handing the ball off and running the football.
Smart football is going to win us this game this week.
We have to. The thing we're pushing our kids is to be more disciplined. Our eye discipline has to be better. We can't see the tight end turn out and fit in the wrong position, or we get motion come across. We can't wait till the motion gets to the other side before we change the coverage. So our eye discipline has to be better, and our effort has to get better. I'm pushing our kids to go ever better. I'm pushing our coaches. I'm telling our coaches we have to coach our kids better. That's one of the things I've been riding our coaches this week. My job is really to manage the coaches, not so much the kids. The coaches manage the kids. I manage the coaches. So I've been on the coaches behind a little bit on some of this. Just trying to get more out of our kids. I think the kids have responded. I think we're going to have a good week of practice, or we've had a good week of practice thus far. We're gonna get after it Friday night. We got a good Coffee team coming to town. My goal is to go out there and compete with them and put ourselves in a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter.
Fantastic. That's what we're expecting to see between the bricks. You said kickoff Friday night, 7:30.
Yep.
We got a theme this week or anything?
Beat Coffee. My thing. I don't get into all of that too much, and I'm super cool hashtag guy. I don't buy into that. I buy into great defense. I think people get hung up on that wins games. I see a lot of guys who post all that stuff and they have all these things and they get their eyes beat in on Friday night. My focus is on winning games. And I'll tell you where I get that from is I'm not saying I'm Nick Saban, but Alabama, they do the least of that stuff of anybody in major college. You see people, they've got, posting pictures of kids with crazy hashtags and videos of the coaches dancing and all that stuff. Nick Saban doesn't do anything. He's working on trying to coach his team to rip your head off and go out there and be physical and disciplined and win the game. And so for us, that's what I'm trying to teach our kids, man. You don't get any points for all that stuff's all fine and dandy. But when you hit the field, your focus has got to be work. And teaching our kids, coaching our kids to be hard nosed, because there's not I gave this speech to the kids the other day. We don't need any more weak men in the world. Your job, they're my players, and I envision this for our kids. The role of my players is to one day go out and raise the next generation of tough, hard nosed men. And so I think it's up to men and a lot of times our coaching staff here to teach those kids how to be tough and hard-nosed. Toughness is a skill, and so you have to practice being tough. You have to put people in situations where they're uncomfortable, make them fight through, and none of that stuff's not fun. And so, for us, that's my theme. Let's get tougher. Let's get better. My theme for the week is let's get better. Let's be more hard-nosed. Let's go out there and be the most physical team. That's what I've been preaching to our kids. We have to get more physical. We have to get more physical, violent, and deliberate in everything we do on the football field. Because at the end of the day, that stuff still wins games.
Yeah, we gotta arrive with some violent intentions.
Bad intentions. Look, I want our kids to play with character, but kind of play with a little cruelty too. I think, and that's really what we're looking for. We want guys to go out there and have a little dark heart in them. When they strike somebody, I tell them all the time, somebody puts their hands on you on a football field, you've got to retaliate. And by what I mean is between the whistles, you got to come off and let that sucker know that there's going to be some retribution. You come over here and try to block me, there's going to be some retribution to it. We have to be violent when we strike people. Because that is still the game, and so physicality is one of those things that you can't fake being physical, and the physical team wins football games, and that's probably completely 180 degrees from what a lot of people want to hear. But in the game of football, that's really what you still want to do. You got to be physical on the lines of scrimmage. You got to strike people. You got to knock people back. And so that's been our focus for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, they still haven't put flags on you guys yet.
No, they haven't put flags on us. The meek shall inherit the earth, but it won't do in the sacred acre of a football field. I mean, physical people are going to win the day in football. And so our football team's got to get more physical, and we have to get more disciplined.
So speaking of football, Coach, when you're on the sidelines, what's your banter with the referees look like throughout the game? I'm not talking when they blow that holding call or something. I'm talking about just throughout the game.
It depends on the officials and each crew's different. I've gotten to know a lot of the crews down here for good and bad. I mean, some of the crews show up and I just kind of start shaking my head. I can't believe we're paying money for these guys. And then other crews are really, really good. And if you think I'm talking about you, I'm probably talking about you. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, but I mean, that really is what it is. So, I come out, I want to set the tone early. So I spend each week, I take cut-ups of our opponents and I send to the officials during the week and go, hey, these are things that might be potential penalties you need to look at. They're going to do this. They're going to put a man downfield when they do this. The left tackle holds a bunch, whatever it is. So I send that to the officials during the week and try to prep them. And then I ask them if they saw those plays. A lot of times they don't. I mean, that's the truth. A lot of times they're oblivious to it.
You got to do your homework, officials.
I didn't see it.
Well,
it is. I mean, I didn't see that. The other thing is, it just depends on my relationship with some of those guys. Some of those guys I G and haul with. Some of them I kind of get on to them at the beginning about former games that you officiated with us. Y'all let this happen. Y'all come out here and do this tonight. You and I are going to have a problem from the get-go. And I think it is setting a professional relationship with them is that the fans aren't there for them. I mean, the best officiated games are games where nobody noticed the officials are there. And they just do their job. They make 7 or 8 calls. I've been in games, and not here. I was in a quarterfinal playoff game years ago in Atlanta, and there were like 40 penalties called in the game. We had an officiating crew that had not done a 7A football game all year long. Those guys came in. I think they called 36 penalties. It was on television. And during the game, about the middle of first quarter, the side judge comes to me and says, "Coach, this game's too fast for us. We haven't seen anything like it." And I said, "Well, then walk out there and tell all those guys to put their flags in their pocket," because neither team, the game was so disrupted by the officials sometimes, and people don't realize that. I don't think officials are trying to submarine the flow of the game. I think sometimes you get two really good teams out there, and if you have officials that aren't used to seeing that caliber of football, the game happens too fast. It's like taking a JV kid and putting him in a varsity football game. Some guys are really, really good officials. Some guys aren't ready for that. And unfortunately, we have a shortage of officials in the state of Georgia, and because of that, you have a lot of inexperienced guys who are out there on the side, running the sidelines and working the fields, and they got to grow up in a hurry. My advice to those guys is, if you haven't done this, usually the white hats will tell you that, "Hey, I got some new guys over here," and I'll tell them to keep their flags in their pocket, because inexperienced officials want to throw a bunch of flags. They call everything they think they see. Good officials, you see good officials on the sideline on film, they'll reach for their flag and kind of pause for a second. Because good officials will they'll kind of rerun that play in their head before they pull that flag and say, "Did I see that? If you think you saw it, don't call it. You have to know that you saw it to call it." And I think there are a lot of good officials out there, but there's a lot of them that's not so good either. So I'm working on those. So I don't know if that helps with my banter. I usually joke with them throughout the game. I'll, talk to them a little bit, kind of give them a hard time. Sometimes if I want to give them a hard time and they tell me don't talk to me, I'll stand right next to them and talk to the kids around me about the officials. It's a game to play.
It's a dance.
It is. You want to let them know, and you see other coaches. I picked up things from other coaches who do a great job of working officials. I won't mention any names. We had a team that beat us a few years ago, and they called 6 pass interference calls on their sideline in the game, and let them. That was the difference between the game. And their coaches went over every time they would throw the comeback and tell the official it's coming back, watch for the pass interference, and he called it every time. And I learned something from that. I learned something from that. So one, to be preemptive about things, but the other side is you can prep guys for penalties. Hey, look, we're going to have kick out right here. This guy's going to face mask us every time. He sticks his face in his hands, in our hands every time we do this, or he's going to grab our jersey. So you have to be preemptive about that stuff and kind of prep them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and all you can do is just be mad at them.
All right, we're going to pause, take a message from our sponsors.
Hidalgo, the Glen Academy Red Terrors. Just like the quarterback, a person's home is their most valuable asset. We like to use the big uglies up front to keep the pests out of our backfield. And when it comes to my backyard, I trust Peachtree Pest Control. Termites, rodents, ants, and any other types of pests, Peachtree Pest Control tackles them all for you. Protect your house and all your pest control needs. Contact Peachtree Pest Control.
Go Terrors!
Rocky Hidalgo, head football coach of the Glen Academy Red Terrors. Those of us who live in the Golden Isles are blessed to live in one of the most beautiful areas in the country that has an overabundance of ocean wildlife. If you want to experience the best that these coastal waters have to offer, there's no better place to start than with a trip with Coastal Tide Excursions. Perfect for a family trip or a great team building exercise with your company. The crew of the Lady Jane will give you a hands-on experience with all the types of ocean. With public and private tours, now is the perfect time to schedule your experience. Go to shrimpcruise.com or find Coastal Tide Excursions on Facebook.
All right, welcome back, guys. So, Scout Team Player of the Week this week?
I'd like to punch our scout team after yesterday. Now, we've had some good work with a lot of our kids. I think one of the kids that's done a great job for us over the past few weeks is Camden Wilson. I would say Camden Wilson playing linebacker. He's played some center. He's played tight end, fullback. He's a kid that shows up every day, but I would say Camden Wilson's our Scout Team Player of the Week.
Fantastic. Camden, great work, man. That's the most important role on the team. So looking towards Coffee this week, what can we expect to see out of our offense? We're going to keep slinging it around?
We're going to do what they allow us to do. And I say that, you got to take what the defense gives you. We don't, Sun Tzu said, never attack the walled fortresses. And so you don't, if they've got a loaded box, you don't want to try to cram it in there and run the ball against a loaded box. The same thing is you don't want to try to throw the ball out there when they've got numbers and covers. So we have to take what they give us. they're a very sound fundamental football team. They don't have any players on the defensive line that are just like light up dynamic just with their get off, but they've got a lot of really good players that are all built the same way. They're about 5'11", tall and about 5'11" wide. Big, strong guys that get their hands on you. You don't get a lot of movement on them, so we have to create some space laterally as well as vertically. So we're going to have to space those guys out, to kind of stretch them out, to run the ball in there, because it's tough to get a lot of push on them. They do a great job of fitting on the football at the second level. In the secondary, they play a lot of zone coverage, so they give you some things, or at least at pre-snap things are open. But the one thing that they do is they break on the ball when the ball is thrown. They break on the ball and break up passes very well. So they're a really sound defensive football team. From our end, I think we've got to play good fundamental football. We have to be able to run the ball effectively. That means we got to get hats on a hat. Even if we don't get a lot of movement on guys, we got to get guys covered up. We can't get pushed around on the offensive line. We got to protect the quarterback, obviously. We got to be on the same page with our route running. So when the quarterback's throwing a post, we got to be able to make sure that we're breaking the ball off at a post. And as long as we're doing those things, we got to catch the ball too. I think that's something we've done last week. We caught the ball really well last week. But it's one of those things in this offense, a drop is a turnover. So we've got to continue to catch the football. I think the more of that stuff we do, the better at it we get.
Amen to that. You talk about them playing a lot of zone. That puts a lot of stress on the quarterback to be able to read the defense, that sort of thing, where they're moving. Great quote from Coach O'Leary. My dad worked with Coach O'Leary years ago at UCF, and he said, the most important thing for a quarterback to do when he gets up to the line. And I said, it's to check the safeties, know what defense they're in. He said, no, make sure you're behind the center. So make sure Tyler knows to line up behind the center.
I got to have a lot of George O'Leary stories. George O'Leary was very good to me when he was at Georgia Tech. We used to go down to practices and watch practice. The best practices I've ever seen run were Georgia Tech practices under George O'Leary. They had a great coaching staff, Ralph Friedgen, Ross New. I mean, they had so many.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, they had so many. People don't realize Bill O'Brien, but back when Billy O'Brien was just a running back coach, I spent so many hours with him sitting around talking football. And that guy's been a head coach in the NFL, as the offensive coordinator at University of Alabama. But Coach O'Leary used to open the doors to us, give us the full run of the place. I spent a lot of time at Georgia Tech and really helped me learn how to run a practice. When you'd go down there and watch George O'Leary's practices, they were really impressive. Great guy, great football coach. I have a lot of funny George O'Leary quotes. None of them can be said here.
Nope.
George O'Leary cussed, he'd make a sailor blush the way he was a craftsman in the art of profanity.
Yes.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, you talk about a man who ran a program and who made men. I mean, you look at his coaching tree and the guys who played for him, it's absolutely fantastic. Well, Coach, you got anything else for the crew?
Man, just get out on 7:30 on Friday night. It's going to be a really good game. A good Coffee team coming. Get a chance to see some really good players. Watch our kids compete. It's going to be a great night, and I think the weather's going to be good. It's about to turn nice and cool. It's going to be a little too warm for the Nats to be out, so it'll be a perfect night between the bricks.
And then who do we play the next week after that?
We play the Brunswick High Pirates, but we can't worry about that right now.
We ain't worried about that. We're going to take care of Coffee. I'm looking forward to our interview next week when we preview BHS after a big victory against Coffee. See you guys Friday night between the bricks at 7:30. This is Dan, sign off for Terrortown Talk. Thank you again to our sponsors, Peachtree Pest Control, Island Ace Hardware, and Sapelo Equipment Company. Check out Coach Rock's link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day.